Well, good evening, everyone. So this is our, I don't know if we call it emergency, but our impromptu, although duly
Special.
posted and noted, special. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Especially because you're here, Kevin. It is a special meeting of the Boyden Library Board of Trustees. We currently only have 3 of our trustees, so we do not yet have quorum. So I may suggest we pause for just a moment before we call to order, because I believe we are expecting all trustees to attend here. So we'll pause for just a moment. You can watch us look at each other as we wait. And of course, for those of you who may have tuned in, this special meeting is to review the budget, which we'll submit to Town Hall for next fiscal year.
Just looking to see if we had any updates by email from any of our members. I don't see any. I don't see any in my box currently.
I may go out camera here for a second and send a text to see. I do believe Joyce was not able to attend, so it is Catherine and Anna Sewell who are planning to attend.
Correct.
All right, I just sent a text to Catherine. So why don't we carry forward, at least so we can, the 3 of us as trustees, get up to speed. And Kevin, you can walk us through what you and May discussed following our meeting with
Certainly
the Town Hall, and we'll catch the others up so we can keep our meeting moving. So I will call our special meeting to order at 7:02 on January 6th. Special meeting to review and potentially vote on our annual budget. I'll hand it over to Vice Chair Kevin Penders.
So Christine, to your question, we met with Town Hall on Monday and walked through the budget as we voted at the December meeting, which, if you recall, was a rough cut reinsertion of the young adult librarian position, knowing the Town Hall's position with respect to new salary hires and the mandate to all departments to remain at 2.5% of prior periods budgeting and expenditures. So we knew that was going to put us over the top once we reinserted that, because we didn't take anything out from O&M, not having exact numbers with which to operate. We just made the statement of putting that back in as a priority. So we met on Monday, Manny, Colin, myself, George Semia, Maria, her last name I always butcher, so I won't try here now, from the town accountant's office, and Bill Keegan as town manager. And we walked through the budget itself. Bill was pretty, clear as to the directives he has given to the town heads, department heads, in putting the budgets together, and the limitations with that with respect to salaried ads and the overall expenditure levels. And so, we said we reminded Town Hall of the priority to us of a young adult librarian's position, of the fact that we have made no new hires since we have moved into the renovated space, nor have we even sought them, forget about made them, other than the young adult position, and the fact that we have been seeking this position in some way for no less than 3 years, and really more than that. Following those discussions, Bill indicated that if we were able to get our budget under 2.5%, with a part-time less than 19, it's really less than 18 3/4, but less than 19-hour a week YA librarian position embedded in the budget, he would consider it, was the statement. Not we could do it, we can't do it, he would consider it. And so with that, we went back and looked at the budget, and we thought that there would be some areas where we could probably make some changes. We did get some pretty directed questions with respect to the streaming services, for example, line item, the $13,000 that Manny was proposing to add in here for Hoopla, Canopy, the other services that I'm not rolling off my tongue, that had previously been included in digital and electronic media, but there are more offerings. We talked and got some some discussion with respect to the value of those services for library patrons from town hall. And we addressed those questions, I think, pretty clearly. We also talked again about the value of a YA position, excuse me. And the fact that some of our top books are YA related material, and the value in having somebody in that position. So with that, we went back and we determined that so the position we had in mind was a $60,000 a year full-time young adult librarian position. Manny and I on Monday looked at it in the sense of we're just cutting it in half, so it's 30,000. Town accountant George Semia has come back and said it's actually 35 and change for a part-time position. And so why don't I, unless folks have any objections or questions at this point, why don't I put my screen up, and we'll show you, if I can. I think this is the one we want to see. So hopefully you should be seeing, come on, share. Okay, so you should be seeing an Excel sheet right now that shows the budget with adjustments. Now, we're going to ignore the 2023 town manager column because that it's reflective of what the initial request had been, but the changes we really are going to make, if we're going to make any, and okay. Colin, I have a note back from Catherine Uden that in response to a text that I had sent also, and it does not look like she's going to be able to join us.
Yes, and I've texted Honestal as well.
Okay.
And I've not heard back yet.
Yeah. So I'll walk through this for the sake of the exercise, but obviously we're going to have a difficulty in voting on it without a quorum.
And I just heard back now from Honestal, who's tested positive and is unable to join us.
Okay. So the reason we were doing this as a special, Christine, is that Town Hall is putting together its budget book for the Board of Selectmen and for AdCom. And they were looking to finalize numbers this week, which means that they'd be looking for numbers from us tomorrow morning. And so I don't know truthfully how much the storm affects that either for them, for their purposes, but that was the reason for the intended special. Why don't I go through and walk through what I've got here for the sake of the exercise, and Colin, I'll defer to you on how you want to wrap that from here, as we will not have a quorum if we can't get one of the other three to join.
Yeah, I think let's go through it. Let's at least, if we can have a discussion, it's not a formal vote, to just get some alignment on that, so we can hopefully, when we can get together as a group, have a more focused conversation, and hopefully get this. And we'll have some follow-up with Town Hall to occur. So
first thing we did was we made no change to the library director's position. We had a step increase in there for about $2,000. That came out, as the library director's position is unlikely to be in excess of Manny's current salary. With Manny stepping out and a new director coming in, it would be unlikely that they would be at the same level that Manny would be at. So we just held that as an equal, which saves about $2,000 on the prior budget. We inserted $30,000, here in the professional librarian's position, which accounts for the $30,000 that Manny and I were anticipating as half of the $60,000 YA position. Can you see my changes here? What I've got in red? Okay, great.
Yeah.
We made no changes to the librarian level 2 position, the substitute librarian level 2 position, or really any of these other positions, all the way down to library pages. Okay. Now, library pages is something that Manny and I talked about based on actuals. As you'll see here, in 2021, we've expended about $18,000 in library page salaries. We only have 3 library pages. we were budgeting for $26,238. In reality, we'll be lucky if we spend 21 to 22,000 based on our current staffing of pages. So using prior year's expenses as a parameter with the effort to increase that, I would propose that we cut the 26,238 that we've proposed and make it a flat $21,000, which would be a savings of $5,238 from our budget, which is the captured amount that we need for the remainder of the YA part-time position. Okay. So that's how we're funding the YA position. We still have to get below 2.5% in order to do that. But that's where the financing of that 35,000 comes from in this proposed budget. Those are the changes that Manny and I had talked about making with respect to the salary components of the line item to achieve that goal. That then takes us down to O&M, operating expenses, seeking to make other changes again to get us under that 2.5%. The first and biggest target in that bunch is the $13,000 associated with streaming services, which is a new line item, which was portions of it were comprised into the previously digital and electronic media line item. We're not proposing changes to the digital and electronic media line item. And we showed last year that we spent $35,266 in that category, some of which we were pulling into the $13,000 streaming services line item. It just basically was an opportunity for us to do more of this service. I would propose for the library's consideration, the trustees' consideration, that we strip the streaming services $13,000 out. If we choose to fund that, we have opportunity and means to fund that through a different line. We could fund it through Beyond Books. We can talk to the Friends. I actually met with the Friends last night and previewed for them that we may be coming back to them for some additional financial support. So we can do that one of a couple of different ways within our own control and dominion. So I built this budget stripping out the $13,000 line item. Okay. The other changes you see are marked in red. And I don't know that this is necessarily the quote unquote right number for each of these. But as you can see down below, it brings us down to 2.17. So we do have some float. If we feel like the right measure mix is not achieved here, we can put some dollars back in. Just starting at the top, custodial services line item here in line 22. We expended $35,000 last year, $32,600 the year before. We were proposing $40,000 for this year. Certainly with COVID and other concerns, we're fully supportive of doing that. My question was whether we were going to spend the full 40, or if just as a rounding, could we use 39,000 as an alternative to come up with $1,000? Again, I was doing that at the outset, so that may be not something we want to do.
There's also a $3,000 increase in custodial supplies below, so we've got a bit of a delta there to play with. Correct.
We want the building to be clean. We want the building to be secure. We want the building to be safe for our patrons. But with those two line items, what the right number is, I think, is really something we have some opportunity to make change if we want to. The second item that's in here is office supplies. As we've talked about, the library is looking to buy a second copier. The quote that came in on the copy, we were seeking $18,000, consistent with, I think, prior year's spending or prior year's ask. But with that, if I recall correctly, Manny, the quotes actually have come in lower than expected. So we could make an adjustment in that line item,
Yes.
Changing it to 10,000, which gives us an $8,000 delta there. Procure the copier, make the changes we need to make. And if, in fact, there were any additional office supply, copier support, things like that, line item costs that are not currently being captured, we could discuss how we wanted to expend funds for those later in the year. So that one has some opportunity for change. The next one after that is books and subscriptions. We're proposing 75,000. In reality, we spend about $70,000 a year. We have an obligation to continue to buy books. Obviously, we are a library, and subscriptions. But I was trying to come out a number that was somewhere between the 69.5 and the 75,000. In light of some of the other numbers, would like to actually increase this beyond 71.5 and maybe make it 72 or 73. But that's why that's why I put that number in red as a change for discussion, because we have an opportunity to control. We control that directly. Audio visual is another one where we were proposing $30,000. We've spent around $25,000. We have the opportunity to control that as well. So whether that number should be 25, 26, 27, we have a chance there to shave some dollars to get us under the 2.5. And I would say, again, originally I put this as 25 as a soft number to put in, but it seems to me that's the wrong number. It seems to me like we could go to middle ground between the 25 and the 30 and save about $3,000 for our goal here.
Yep.
We already talked about the streaming services line item. We talked about other library, but we haven't talked about other library supplies. We were proposing to make that $9,000 following my conversations on Monday with Manny and looking at the history of this. We have been spending less on supplies in large part because we're having less foot traffic, I think. But if we, again, that's something we can manage, and Manny felt that was something we could bring down to $7,000 and still be comfortably operate comfortably with that as a number. So I put that in. And then the last one, obviously, we cut meetings and conferences in half, not because we don't think there's a priority there for people to be doing learning and training and attending, but one, I'm not quite sure where they're going to be doing that in light of the current surge. And two, we haven't seen a huge spike in that happening yet. And again, last year and the year before combined was $2,200. So we felt, based on that, Manny and I in my conversations, if we lowered this to $2,500 or $3,000, we could accomplish that goal. We could still promote people to be in attendance at events, and we could still recoup some of those savings. And so again, if I bring that as 3,000, for example, that brings us down to, and making other changes as people may see fit. Right now we're sitting at 2.39%. So that was the logic behind the changes. I'm open to suggestions, adjustments, or any other considerations or questions.
Christine?
First of all, thank you, Kevin, for being creative by going through that. It looks to me like every area that you kind of adjusted was very logically done. So I agree with those changes. Thank you.
No problem.
And second those thanks to you and to Manny. Kevin, you made a comment a couple of times as you went through the line items, and pardon my ignorance if I'm just kind of reading into your comments. You said, we can control this line item, we can control that line item. Is there, are there some that we can't control?
I mean, simply put, we can't control postage. It's small, but you pay for what you pay for. Book binding services it's only controlled by you not sending books out to be bound. Right. I mean, I would say in the old library days, we couldn't control utilities, which are no longer included.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we certainly can't control COVID expenses. They'll be what they'll be. And that's why I think the custodial services and supplies are still an important component there. But no, I mean, the only way we can control some of these things is by choosing to participate in them or not, or choosing to find funding for them or not. Right. And where we do have beyond books available, we can creatively step into some of these line items to provide added support if we so chose.
That's just what I was thinking. Manny, are there any areas where across the board, there's either level funding or slight increases in many/most of these areas? Do you believe the library and the incoming director will be limited in areas that cause you concern with the budget that's drafted?
I don't think they'll be limited at all. I still think this is a very healthy budget. And I mean, my goal since I've started as director at Boyden was to get that young adult librarian position. And I think Kevin and we spoke Monday afternoon and we went through this, and especially Kevin, piece by piece, this budget. And I stand behind this budget. I think the goal is to get that young adult librarian. And yes, we've made some cuts, but we haven't made any that are considered severe. We can still survive and thrive with this budget, and the incoming director shouldn't have an issue. And again, like Kevin said, there are certain beyond books, which is out there for the purpose of any sort of capital expenditures for the library, that is there too. And also the trusts. We have numerous trust funds that we can utilize when it comes to books and subscriptions, and some of them with audio visual.
Sure. And just for context, because while we were talking about it, I wanted to see what the delta would be. So I put $1,000 back into the other library supplies, the $7,000 number that we had been talking about, which we had initially proposed as 9. So I just put it to 8 just to see what the change in effect would be. So that $1,000 increment brings you to 2.48%. So you could take that $1,000 and spread it wherever you wanted to in that's barring other drastic changes. That would be your delta.
Yeah. I'm going to suggest that we don't put the $1,000 in there.
Okay.
And we come out on the 239. I was going to say we should still come out on the low end of the 2.4s. I'm not bothered by coming at 239 as a show of good faith to the town and town hall in terms of how we're trying to invest according to our priorities, but also invest in a way that's sensitive to the realities of the town this fiscal year.
That it doesn't offend me. So the 7,000 was my original estimate based on this. And the other thing that's really important for us is that this budget, as constituted, meets our MAR requirements with the state as well. So even though we're proposing to make cuts, again, we're not making cuts here that we're not putting someplace else. We're making these cuts so that we can get to the YA position. So really our bottom line budget that we would seek to implement remains the same. I mean, with some fractional differences, remains the same.
So recognizing that we cannot take an official vote on this, we have some next steps here. So if we can circulate this version of the budget as one that was discussed and not voted on in our special meeting, Manny will have to call another special meeting to get a vote on this.
Well, we probably wouldn't be able to do that before the Tuesday meeting. So what we would really need to do is add this to the Tuesday meeting. I would suggest.
Yeah.
I was forgetting we have that coming right up. So, perhaps we can do is, do you think it's of any benefit to town hall to say, here's what we've discussed. Here's what we will be discussing. And we intend to vote on a budget on Tuesday. This is the one that we have discussed. And well, we can't put it forward until it's voted. If what I'm trying to get at is, it may be helpful for them to see a glimpse of where we're likely to land. Just to do whatever we can to help them with their process.
If I may, I'm more than happy to circulate this to the full board and to Manny to do quality control and quality assurance, QA, QC, so that we can vote on it for Tuesday. And we're going to need it in front of us for Tuesday anyhow. My suggestion would be, Colin, that either you or I reach out to Bill Keegan directly to let him know that we did notice and convene a special tonight in good faith, as we told him we would do, but we didn't have a quorum. And so because we didn't have a quorum, we couldn't take an official vote. And the next opportunity we will have to do that will be Tuesday. Yeah. I'm fine to say to him, this is what we are going to be discussing on Tuesday, and put it in front of him and say, for informational purposes, this is how we would get to what we talked about if the trustees were so inclined.
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, based on our conversation here with the three of us, I would find it unlikely we don't get to consensus on this, but formally we can't say we did.
Great. So if you can send that to me, I'll send a note to Bill tomorrow morning, similar to how you just articulated it, and we'll vote on Tuesday.
I will send it in response to the email you sent to the trustees with the Zoom link momentarily.
I do have a quick question, Colin, as far as Tuesday's meeting. Do you want that held in person? Do you want it hybrid, or do you want to do it via Zoom?
I think we should plan to do it via Zoom.
Okay.
I know a couple of us are coming out of COVID infection. I know Catherine is still preferring to meet virtual, and also may want to do that as well.
There will be 2 items for executive session, just to let you know. That'll be on the agenda, but that'll be at the end of the meeting. And most likely Mike Johns will be in attendance at Tuesday's meeting.
Super. All right, folks. Anything else before we call our meeting, before we adjourn?
Just stay safe, everybody, especially with the impending storm.
Yes. Stay home, stay safe, stay healthy.
Yeah.
All right. Apologies.
Motion to adjourn?
I'm so moved.
So moved. All in favor? Christine, Kevin, Colin. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Foxborough Cable.
Michael.